This video isn't like most of my other videos. At all. This isn't me doing some sort of in-depth analysis or a full-blown lore video. This is me taking the time just to full-on gush about my favorite video game of all time. I guess I'm doing this because I'm surprised I haven't done it already, but also because I think this game is worth gushing over. My first video game console system was the Xbox 360. I loved playing games on the Xbox, but I really couldn't play anything longer than an hour at most. Most of these games were shooters. They were games where you were meant to explore the world around you with a gun in your hand. Or maybe you weren't even meant to explore and the levels were painfully linear. Either way, while those games were fun, they weren't exactly captivating for someone like me. Someone like me who enjoys studying the history of the world and the wider universe, or who appreciates the quiet times when everything is peaceful. But eventually, I received my first copy of The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, a video game that was already several years old by that point. I played it on the Xbox 360 and I was hooked immediately. First, Skyrim has a certain aesthetic that I quite like. The wilderness of Skyrim is deep and, well, wild. There's always a feeling that there's more to be done. The sound of the morning breeze or the crushing of grass under your feet are all great sensations I had never seen done in a video game before. And one of the things that intrigued me was that you didn't always have your weapon out all the time. It sounds really small, but the fact that you could both draw and sheath your sword was a big deal to me. It was a world where you didn't have to explore it with a gun in your hand. And there's a lot of room to explore in Skyrim. Several villages and cities dot the country's landscape, a landscape that is riddled with ruins that hint at the larger history of the world. When I saw these ruins, I asked myself if there was a written history of this world. Can you imagine my excitement when I realized that there were books in this game? I would sometimes turn on the Xbox and get to Skyrim just to read some of the many lore books of Skyrim, which enhanced my appreciation for the game. I know many, if not most people skip reading these books, but for me, these books were part of the unique character that helped to make this game my favorite. There were NPCs in Skyrim that I could talk to. I didn't have to kill everyone I saw. I could engage in conversation with people about their local area, and I had my own choice of how to handle the conversation, sometimes ending with characters being my friend, or with a brawl starting right there and then. Well flawed, the follower system helped Skyrim not feel so lonely, and helped weave together a narrative. I could pass by a certain dungeon and remember going through that dungeon and the horror I felt when I realized one of my companions had fought their last enemy in that dungeon. Combat in Skyrim is done on a scale that I enjoy. You can use the terrain to your advantage, take cover, and pick off enemies one by one with stealth, or you can just charge in with a sword swinging. But an option that is important to me that might not be important to most people is the ability to just run away and try to outrun the enemies. It might sound weird, but I was tired of games where you do nothing but fight all the time. The chance to play a character who explores and is against violence was a chance I eagerly took. Exploration is rewarded and does not feel like a chore in Skyrim. So many times when playing the game, I would just spin my joystick until I was facing a random direction, and then I would just head straight, and I would always come across something interesting. Exploration will help you find certain quests, characters, or items, or you just might find a visual Easter egg left behind by the developers. And in the slim chance that you find nothing, Skyrim is still one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen with its landscapes and designs. I think I've heard once that Skyrim was deliberately made so that a majority of random frames in the game the player sees will still fit a wonder-incurring landscape. Quite literally, every frame is a painting, and that makes Skyrim a game that I can play and play for hours on end. Unlike other RPGs, Skyrim doesn't bog itself down with numbers and stats beyond a simple logical leveling up system. For many RPG fans, this is actually a drawback for the game, but for a casual fan like myself, it made Skyrim much more accessible. Role-playing to me means emulating much of real life, and I do not spend much of real life thinking about my own IRL stats. Once numbers start popping up with meaningless sliders, I am completely pulled out of the experience. That being said, Skyrim gave me an entry point into older Elder Scrolls games that do include these RPG mechanics, and I am able to appreciate them a bit better than I had before. And on the subject of immersion, Skyrim has immersion in spades. Perhaps the only reason I could play Skyrim for so long is the fact that the game is properly built to be another world. Skyrim is the only game I've played where I can be so sucked up into the world that I forget about real life for a time. There are some other aspects about Skyrim that make it jive well with me personally. As someone who loves cold weather and overcast skies, Skyrim provides that naturally. I also get really bad motion sickness with any sort of FPS game. Skyrim gives me the option to switch cameras. Frankly, the ability to switch from first-person to third-person perspective at the click of a button probably is the reason why I can play Skyrim for long sessions at a time. But the reason I've played Skyrim for so long, after all these years while other games are left behind, is really because of one thing: mods. The Skyrim modding community has turned Skyrim into a game that I can customize and tweak, and take a base game that I already love and turn it into the perfect game for me. I personally like the different Game of Thrones-esque political maneuvering, and there are mods that can meet that need. If I want to make Skyrim a survival game, mods have me covered. If I want to try to fight through a zombie apocalypse, there are mods for that. Or if I just want some more quests that are entertaining, the Skyrim mods are a gift that keep on giving, even giving players a chance to leave Skyrim and go into other areas on the vast, lore-deep map of Tamriel. The spirit of the Skyrim modding community and the free availability of these amazing mods makes the difference between Skyrim being just a good game to being my favorite game that I'll probably play for as long as I live, because frankly, the only thing that can beat Skyrim for me is Elder Scrolls 6. But with Bethesda showing a growing opposition to the free modding community and shifting towards a more multiplayer experience, let's say that I'm skeptical at best when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. At the end of the day, Skyrim isn't perfect. It's filled with bugs, which frankly I find endearing unless they're of the game-crashing variety. It's an old engine that doesn't know how to properly handle RAM, and sometimes things will just break. But Skyrim is my favorite game nonetheless, and has even changed my own life. Who knows if I would be so into traveling if Skyrim didn't show me a world so interesting that it sparked an interest in seeing everything my own world has to offer. So with that, let's remember Skyrim's core message of exploration, and let's face the unknown that is the future with a sword in one hand and a shout at the ready. Thank you all so much for watching this little rant on Skyrim. I hope those of you who enjoy Skyrim as much as I do got something out of it. If you can relate to anything I said, please leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and also subscribe over to the Lazy Koalas, a podcast that I'm a part of. My Twitter is in the description for updates, my Instagram is there for photos when I move to Japan this year, and my Discord server is linked below as well if you want to chill with me or other friends and fans of the channel. All that said, thank you all again, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.